Good day to you out there. I am Dali Pascal, your host on today's episode of Lawyers Hangout on Justice, where lawyers dissect legal issues. Today, we shall be looking at the VAP Act, otherwise known as the Violence Against Persons Act. I think it was enacted in 2015. I have with me in the studio three powerful lawyers who shall be discussing and are our discussants on today's topic, more like a continuation of our previous episode. And with me in the studio is Mr. O.C. Ali.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We also have in the studio Ms. Munirat Adama and Mr. Amadi Ebenezer. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're looking like a pastor this afternoon. Hope you're not on some some ministration journey. For the purposes of clarity, the VAP Act, otherwise known as the Violence Against Persons Act, was enacted in 2015.
Yes.
And the Act provides for issues of violence or threatening violence and all of that. It is a whole lot encompassing violence from one person to another, even companies, organizations, as it were. But the lawyers here would elucidate more on this fact. And so in order not to keep us or waste much of our time, let's move right into the discussion for today. Like I said, it is a continuation of our previous episode. You will do yourself some good to also go check out the last episode so that you're carried along. Thank you. So, Mr. O.C. Ali,
thank you, sir.
For the purposes of clarity, please, what do we understand by the VAP Act and the offenses contained therein? Let our people be aware of these offenses and the remedies or punishments possibly, if at all the VAP Act provides for it. So,
all right, thank you. Just as you said, by way of recap, the VAP Act, the Violence Against Persons Act, generally provides is a law that is put in place that prohibits violence at all levels, at various forms against the human person, not limited to a specific gender, not limited to a specific age grade, but cuts across all spectrum of human lives. Then in respect of the offenses therein, they are enormous. I will just, by way of summary, maybe address the first 5 offenses therein, looking at section 1 to section 5 of the Act. Then I believe other discussants here will throw more light to other parts of the offenses that are contained in the Act. So let me, by way of commencement, I'll say section 1 provides for rape, not as if rape is not provided for in other penal laws in Nigeria, but the VAP Act went extensively to give a broader definition of what rape is. When you look at the criminal code, the penal code, rape was narrowed to a point that it was only seen from the perspective that a man can commit rape. Even the criminal principle was penetration per vaginam, which was the penetration of the man's genitals through the woman's private part. But that is no longer the case. There's now a broader spectrum to read. But when you look at section 1 of the VAP Act, it now says he or she can commit rape. So he as a man or she as a woman who penetrates another person's private part, for a woman, vagina or the anus or a mouth of another, commits rape. And it is not only limited to the man's genitals. Again, even the use of equipment, other bodily parts, forcefully into another person's body parts as defined by section 1 of the VAP Act constitutes rape. All right. Well. So, and the punishment as provided for by the VAP Act is very, very weighty, and it provides for life imprisonment, except where the offender is a person below the age of 14, and it gives the privilege of a 14-year imprisonment, all right, and among others. When you look at the Act, it is explicit on that issue. Section 2 of the Act went further to provide for punishment in causing another grievous bodily harm. It has gone beyond the level of battery. It goes more detailed to say if you cause a person grievous bodily harm by the use of objects or force or whatever, as long as it results to causing a person bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, it amounts to violence. It amounts to torture against the person, and the act seeks to protect that. So gone are the days where people, under the guise of correction, under the guise of guardianship, under the guise of discipline, under the guise of punishment for whatever reason it is, and you go for that to willfully cause grievous bodily harm on a person, it amounts strictly to violence. In contemporary times, I think we should be familiar with the ongoing social media display or reality of a staff of a supermarket, for whatever reason, being dealt with seriously.
It was
all right.
I think it happened in Lagos.
In Lagos, using those objects and all. Those are clear case of putting on a person willfully bodily harm.
Okay,
And
just a moment.
yes.
A moment. This scenario that also played out in a school where a 3-year-old child, I don't know if you're familiar with that story, was hit or beaten or knocked on the head severally by a particular teacher. Does it also amount to violence against the person?
Yes, it amounts to violence against that child, causing bodily harm to the child, molesting the child, affecting the child's physical and psychological state. Even if it does not physically appear on the child as hurt, the mental state of that child is being dealt with. And at that point, it amounts to violence. Then moving forward and very fast. Section 3.
But before we get to the section 3, sorry, sir.
All right.
Is it safe to say at this point that schools that still use cane, koboko, and all of that for the purposes of correction on the children in the schools are committing without knowing, all right, violence to the person of those children? And is it allowed?
The issue of punishment or correcting a child is not out of place. Even the Bible says, and the good book says, he who spares the rod spoils the child. But there must be moderation to these things. The law is put in place to moderate the excesses of man. It's not as if man should not do some of these things. Not all doings of men are out of place or an offense, in itself. But the law is put in place to moderate, limit, and regulate how corrections are being made.
I think to that extent, the intention also matters.
So how the intention and how it is being meted out on a person matters. So I don't see why a child of 3 years that still have the cerebral membrane very, very fragile, you are now knocking the child as if they have brought the child to a boxing school. So it doesn't work that way. At that point, it's violence, and such person can be reported to the appropriate agencies for issues to be taken up. So I proceed further to section 3 of the Act that talks about coercion. All right, forcing a person to do an act that affects the person psychologically, physically, or otherwise against the person's interest. I think I'll marry that section side by side, section 3 or section 5 of the Act that talks about also forceful coercion of a person to engage in an act of that is sexual in nature. So when you see people who gather people in the same place, you force them against their will to maybe go and steal for you. You force people against their will to go and beg on the street and bring revenue for you, as if you have generated your own land revenue in your house, and you send people to the street to beg for you under the guise of whatever religion, cultural belief, and so on. You are forcing them to do an act that affects them psychologically, physically, and you are putting their life in danger. That's violence. You are also gathering people in the same place to send them out to appeal to men, all right, and they satisfy men maybe sexually or for whatever reason, or participate in certain functions or work as staff or whatever in any organization out of their will. You are causing torture on them. You are causing violence on their person, and this act frowns at it, because in contemporary times we see some of these things as norm. All right, you come to the city, I'm helping you, do this for me. You come to the city, I'm helping you, go and hawk for me. You see the decision of the child to hawk. If the parents give you the child to hawk for you, maybe the child was given to you to take care of your own children at home or to be taken to school.
Okay.
All right, and you are now diverting that purpose. Then it becomes violence.
Okay. Mr. Amadi.
Then also section 4, just to round, and so that I can cover 1 to 5.
Okay.
Section 4 is willfully putting a person to fear. So when you put a person to fear, put the person in a position that the person is apprehensive of a danger, even if that danger has not occurred, that is violence against that person, and the law frowns at it.
And the person can take
The
action.
person can take appropriate actions properly.
How?
By making necessary complaint to the regulatory bodies that are saddled with the responsibility of implementing the VAP Act, like the Nigerian Police, like the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, among other agencies.
So anybody making me apprehend imminent danger has committed a crime.
Yes, whether by a text message, whether by a call, whether by words of mouth, putting you in that apprehensive nature. You can't come out today. I will deal with you. As simple as that word, I will deal with you. And you are under that fear, and you can prove that reasonably you were under that apprehension that you will be attacked or there's violence will be caused against you. It's already an offense.
Okay.
Section 4 covers that.
Okay. Let me move to Mr. Amadi. Mr. Amadi, Mr. Osiali have said quite a lot. Are there other things, other offenses under the VAP Act you think he has not touched that you can a little bit elucidate on?
Yes, there are still other offenses.
So there are a plethora of them, I suppose.
There are a lot of them.
Wow.
You know that the VAP Act is very comprehensive when it has to do with offenses that relates to violence against person. It's very comprehensive. And let me also point out something that we need to understand, that there are classes of these offenses. We have the principal offender. We also have what we call aiding and abetting. The punishment is also covered. We also have accessory after the fact and attempt. So unlike some of our criminal laws that did not cover some of these areas, the Violence Against Persons Act made provisions for each of these classes of offenders. So you don't necessarily need to be the principal offender for you to be liable under the Violence Against Persons Act. The fact that you attempted makes you liable. The fact that you aided, you assisted someone to commit the offense makes you liable. The fact that someone, after committing the offense, you assisted the person to escape or to avoid punishment also makes you liable. So that's
the one you people call
accessory after the fact. Yes.
Does that have anything to do with accomplice? The place of accomplice, accessory after the fact, and aiding and abetting.
Yes.
What is the dichotomy between these?
Now, the dichotomy between this is that when you are aiding and abetting, it has to do with before the offense was committed. So, accessory after the fact is when the offense has been committed. So, you are now trying to protect the person or to assist the person from evading punishment.
Which is justice.
Yes, justice. So that is it. So when you look at, let's look at section 11 to 18, it made elaborate provision for a lot of offenses that are against persons. For instance, section 11 made provision for damage of property with the intention to cause distress. You know, this is a very important section, because a lot of people damage people's property and they go scot-free. For instance, some people damage people's phones, damage people's cars, or even jewelries. So it is an offense. It is a violence against person. You are not. Violence against person is not restricted to physical violence on the person. So if you damage the person's property with the intention to cause the person's distress, for instance, you damage someone's phone, and you know that person's phone is very useful. It's more like part of the person's business, which will cause distress to the person. So you have caused the person emotional trauma, emotional damage. So when you look at section 11 made it 2 years imprisonment. Section 12 deals with financial dependence and economic abuse. This especially when it has to do with spouses and people in relationship. For instance, there are some people, some spouses that they don't allow their wives to work, or when their wives are working, they collect their salaries directly from them, from their workplace.
I like this one especially.
So
I know you have
so
interest.
yes, and it's very prevalent.
Very soon you take a swipe, but you are not going to dwell so much.
So
Please.
it's very prevalent in Nigeria, and people don't know that it is a violence against person, because you have when you take financial control of a person, it means that you have taken control of the person, and that person cannot make independent decision. And that is the reason why a lot of people that are married, that are suffering from domestic violence, they can't leave because they are financially handicapped. So they cannot leave the marriage because they are thinking, if I leave this marriage, what happens next? Where will I go? Where will I live? How will I feed myself? How will I take care of myself? So as a person, if you stop a spouse from working, or you are taking the control of the person's wage, then you have committed violence against person. Then
And it is actionable.
It's actionable. It's a crime. It's 2 years imprisonment.
The person can petition for that.
Yes, the person can petition to NAPTIP or even to the police for prosecution. Then another important
And what's the punishment? Sorry.
2 years imprisonment. Another important offense that needs to be also taking note of is Section 15 of the VAP Act that has to do with harmful widowhood practices. It's very prevalent in Nigeria. Like, for instance, some of these practices include isolating a widow in the house after the death of the husband. Or even subjecting the widow to barb her hair, or wear a particular clothes for a particular period of time, or you are denying the widow from inheriting the property of her husband, or you are even denying her from living in the house of the husband. So it is an offense. It is a very serious offense under the VAP Act, which can even lead to 2 years imprisonment. So we also have the offense of intimidation. We also have the offense of stalking. These are all offenses. Even isolation of someone from family members and friends, confinement, they are all offenses. So the VAP Act is very comprehensive when it has to do with all these offenses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hamadi. Mrs. Munirat, you're going to comment very briefly on the VAP Act and offenses contained therein that possibly Mr. Awosi Ali and Mr. Hamadi, the two gentlemen in the studio, have not touched, but that will be immediately after the break, please. We'll go for a short break. We'll be back.
Hello. Have you or anyone you know suffered violation or oppression, regardless of cultures, identities, or backgrounds? Leadership Hub, Justice and Economic Advancement is here for you. An organization created with an amplified voice to fight for you and with you. At LJE Nigeria, you will not only be heard, but also provided with legal support. Together, we can create a country where every individual can live without fear of violation or oppression. I am Aisha Shetima, an LJE member. You too can become a member today or report any violation by visiting our website, ljenigeria.org. You can also follow us on all social media platforms for more information and updates. Remember, together, we are stronger.
You're welcome back from the very short break. Before the break, we were talking about the VAP Act and the provisions as it relates to offenses and all. I think Mr. Ali did quite a lot of justice to the topic, and then Mr. Ahmadi Ebenezer also did. At this point, Munirat, you take a swipe, identifying some of the possible offenses that are still there. I know you'll be very feministic. You look at the women angle. We don't have problems, so take it very briefly then.
Thank you.
Look at the
much,
remedies
Pascal.
and punishments. All right.
Thank you, Pascal.
Thank you.
Section 19, they have already deliberated on a lot of things, so let me just dive into it directly. Section 19 talks about spousal battery, meaning beating your wife, beating your husband, verbal abuse, any attempt at all. And this spousal battery goes a long way to it's interwoven with other things that Charles and Mr. Amadi has been talking about. Battering your wife to an extent of killing her, like the one who burnt his wife, is beyond just this battering we are talking about. But let's just...
So when you refer to such people, you don't call them human beings.
Exactly.
Like that animal.
Like
I think
burning,
that works,
yes.
let's not be
but let's
insulted.
just keep this spousal battery at beating your wife or causing harm or beating your husband. So it's two-way things, not just only the man or the woman, but if any of them cause harm, verbal abuse, or does anything to cause harm or fear or apprehension
How
to
about
them.
beating your children?
This is just for spousal battery,
Okay.
for section 19, and 3 years imprisonment if you have. And not just, I want to point on not just about you battering the wife, but you friends and families that will not allow the family, the spouse to navigate their marriage the best way they can, advising the man. You just say because as a friend it's so simple, you beat him, now their head go correct. Or you as the woman's friend or family,
You don't know the
advise and
harmless
jack
advice.
the man.
You don't know the harmless advice.
Jack the man. If you jack and well for publicly, you disgrace and go know it.
That's a harmless advice.
Things like that, yes, amounts to violence against person. 3 years for you who assisted or advised or counsel. Your punishment is 200,000 naira or 1 year imprisonment. Same as those anybody who aids, abet, or assist or conceal the offender in section 19, 100,000 naira. Then we have harmful traditional practices, e.g., giving chicken blood to someone to drink, or cooking somebody in order to empower them, or something, anything at all. Any harmful traditional practices leads to the offenses under section 20 of the section 20 of the VAP Act is 500,000, 300,000 if you aid and abet or counsel. Then 100,000 naira if you keep them away from justice.
So those ones don't come with imprisonment option. It's strictly fine.
Yes, fine. Strictly fine. Then the one that comes with 25 years without a fine is section 21, substance attack. You hear somebody, I go pour you acid and nothing will happen. I go pour you kerosene, nothing will happen. I'll pour you fire, I go burn you, nothing will happen.
The mere fact that you say that.
The mere fact that you even threaten it and you even say there's no option of fine for you. 25 years. Both you that counsel, both you that aid, both you that abet, and you that committed the principal offender yourself. 25 years without any fine whatsoever. Wow. Then we have administering a substance. You say, now fine get with this, now I just put small thing where you sleep go. Yes.
That's serious.
Yes. Or this man, let me just...
People really do that?
Yes. Or this man, make I put drink. So
but people do that?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah,
It's great.
Yes. You go to parties.
People do that.
Yes. You go to parties. They put substance in your drink or something, poison, anything.
Yes.
Just know that you are facing the imprisonment. I think 2 years imprisonment and, of course, 500,000 naira fine. Just in case your action was not so severe. And you that advise him to do the same thing, watch out.
Okay.
Because you also, yes, it's punishable. Okay. Then political violence, 6 ballot boxes. Cause harm,
that
fight.
One is notorious. Is a notorious.
Yes. Cause problem during political elections and all that.
Offense.
Yes. Imprisonment to 5 years, 500,000, 300,000 if you even advise someone to do that. Or 200,000 when you hide anybody. Let me use it direct English. The person has committed this offense, ran to your house. You opened your door for the person and you hide the person in your house.
But quick one here. In all of these offenses and the amounts you're mentioning, does the court in the implementation or in its ruling have discretion to increase or lower the...
Yes, the court has full discretion to increase or lower, depending, especially... Yes.
Let me come in. In sentencing, the court takes a look at the punishment in the act itself. Most of the provisions in the section, they will always say not exceeding 2 years, not exceeding 3 years. Yes. So the punishment will not exceed the year, but the judge or the magistrate has that discretion after considering some circumstances, mitigating circumstances and the facts of the case to decide whether to give the maximum punishment or
A lesser.
to give a
Minimum.
lesser. And also there is also where the sentence comes with option of fine, there is also the discretion of the judge to also combine both the option
Okay,
of fine.
so very briefly.
Section 24 talked about state actors. You are holding a political position. You are in the parastatal. You have a ministry. You have organization, whatever. As long as you are holding a position and a leader, and then you instigate any form of violence whatsoever, you are also it's also punishable with the fine of 1 million naira.
Oh.
You advise him to do the same thing, 700,000. You will now assist him, 500,000. We have incest. I was hoping to rush to get here. Incest, that's sleeping with your sister, sleeping with your brother, sleeping with your mother, sleeping with your mother-in-law. I saw someone bragging that he
It's
slept
also
with
a
his
violence
mother-in-law and
against
sister.
person. Incest is a violence against person.
Yes.
So very
10
briefly,
years
I would want
imprisonment.
Mr. Osi Ali to comment briefly on some of the remedies, few punishments also, just like she has
Sorry,
mentioned.
before you take it, so I just need to do the last one. Indecent dressing, because people complain that why would you arrest me? I have the right to dress the way I want. You should know that it's violence against person. If you dress in an indecent way to show your genitals, yes. In order to in your genitals to
Touching
tempt
an innocent man.
yes, or even the man
corrupting
to-
their priesthood.
yes, or even the man to being indecent to incite any sexual or whatever otherwise, 1 year imprisonment.
So
And
you're
500,000,
telling me that
as
I
the
can
case
just
may
I
be.
can just take pictures of the person who was possibly dressed indecently and it affected me somehow, and then come against the person, write against the person for a criminal offense.
Exactly.
The law is a beautiful tool in this. So, Mr. Osiali,
Yes, thank you.
comment briefly on the remedies and
All right, I think
punishments.
I'll just address, considering that time, I'll address just two issues. Let me speak on Section 6 and Section 9 of the Violence Against Persons Act. Section 6 talks about gender mutilation. All right, just the way we have circumcision for men, there are certain barbaric cultures that still exist in Nigeria, in Africa, that still goes into gender mutilation for a woman. And female gender mutilation, if our viewers don't understand, means circumcising a woman for certain personal reasons that has to do with culture and certain belief. The law frowns at it. Even the United Nations has raised a lot of campaign over the years to stop gender mutilation of
Female
women.
genital mutilation.
Because it affects them psychologically, it affects their health, and it is a bad practice.
And affect their sexual life.
And it's a bad practice that has been stopped. Some will tell you to stop witchcraftry, some to tell you to limit them so that they're
Some
not
to make them not promiscuous, exactly.
not promiscuous and all, and not steal people's husband, among other things. All right. So, but the law frowns at it, and we are happy the law is taking its course in that regard in Nigeria. And moving forward, when you look at Section 9 of the Violence Against Persons Act, people commit this unknowingly, thinking that they are lording over their home, or they are being the man they are supposed to be in their home. What does that section provide? You cannot forcefully eject a person from his home or her home, and it's going particularly to address, if you look at the content of that section, you cannot forcefully eject your spouse from the house. So with that, whatever is the circumstance, you are the man of the house, you're the woman of the house, you're the one paying the rent, notwithstanding your gender, and you lock your husband outside, lock your wife outside. You cannot come into this house today. Go back to where you are coming from. Maybe you went to watch Champions League with your friends, or you went to
which is particular with men.
Which is particular with men, and they say sleep where you are coming from.
So women should stop locking their husbands outside the
you
house.
can, or forcefully eject
Go back
them.
to where you are coming
Go back
from.
to your father's house. Go back to where you are coming from, and you forcefully throw their things out because then people come to beg you. Gone are those days. It's an offense.
Thank you very much, ladies, lady and gentlemen. That being said, I think it's been a very wonderful session and exposition on the VAP Act, Violence Against Persons Act, enacted in 2015. If you are not aware, now you are aware of the issues that relate to violence against persons. You know your rights as it relates to violence against persons and all that is contained in that section. Of course, that is why we have our professionals in the field and with the LJE team who will always guide you wherever you are found wanting or wherever you need clarifications in our comment sections, in our website, and on our social media pages. will always put you through. I think with this exposition, lawyers would begin to add also violence or bringing out offenses or whatever they are putting in their petitions to even the security agencies, and then conclude by saying all amounting to violence against the person of their clients, because I don't see a lot of lawyers do that. So violence against persons is real. And it is taking a very deep swipe in our society, which we are educating against. Stay away from violence against persons. Don't be an accessory. Don't aid and abet. And don't in any way, form, or manner conceal when you see violence against persons being perpetrated or taking place in any shape, manner, or form. Thank you very much. That's our time. I remain your host, Dale Pascal. May the odds remain in our favor.